Today I want to try out a new grow light from Mars Hydro. This is a company I've never used before. They reached out to me and asked me to check out this product, and I agreed. So, I want to go over what I got here. Comes with instructions and a warranty card. It's got the spectrum test report. I know that some of you really get into this, the PAR measurements and the lumens and all that stuff. I don't really care. The plants become my test subject. That's my indicator for how good the light works. And if the light grows plants really well, I don't really care what a meter tells me about the light. But some of you really do care, so the information's there, and if you want to measure that yourself, you can. One of the things I really liked about this light was the value of what comes with it. I thought it was really interesting that they give away a lot of stuff with the light, which makes me kind of concerned about the light itself because of all the free stuff, but we'll find out. Comes with a thermo hygrometer. So this is a clock, a humidity measurement, and temperature all in one, which I thought was super cool to come in the kit. Actually looks quite nice. Looks like all the LED segments are really large, easy to see. We'll use that. Comes with a timer, which is great because you're going to need a timer. Either that, you're going to be turning it on and off yourself. I will be leaving this on for 16 hours a day and off for 8. So the timer's great. This is a mechanical timer, and they're really easy to set because there's all these little, like sort of buttons in a way, I guess you call them. Little sliders you can just push down by hand and set when you want the timer to come on and off. You can have it come on and off multiple times throughout the day. You could basically almost have it strobe every 15 minutes if you want. Comes with basically a yo-yo. So you can hang the light and then easily just change the height. These are really great to have. Here's something I found really interesting because I haven't used one of these before. This is a two-way meter. It will measure the moisture of your soil, and it will also measure the pH of your soil. Now that pH measurement I thought was pretty interesting. I've never used a analog or digital gauge to measure pH. I've always used like little chemical test strips and things like that, or using a dropper and putting it in a little tube and seeing what color it comes out. So I'm really kind of interested to check that out. That'll be fun to play with. And then we've got the light itself. Now the light itself is pretty interesting. It's just a LED panel. There's a bunch of different spectrums of LEDs in here. Be curious to see what it looks like when I power it up. Looks like it's got this little cord that at first I wasn't sure what you do with it, but it looks like that's actually what plugs into the panel. It's got a pretty massive power supply on it for an LED light. I was kind of surprised that it was that large. And one thing I want to point out about this light is they call it a 1,000-watt grow light. That's not really accurate. I think what they're saying is it puts out the equivalent of 1,000 watts if it was like a incandescent bulb, because it actually only draws 150 watts, which is good for me, because when I saw that it was 1,000 watts, I actually wasn't that interested in playing around with it because that's a lot of electricity, and a light this size, if it draws 1,000 watts, it better be able to do a huge area or it's just not worth it for the power. But seeing how it actually only draws 150 watts, it's something I can use and something I can try out. So I have these great tomato plants right here. Just watered them. They're doing fantastic. And I've had them underneath this super low wattage, I think it's a 5,000 Kelvin light that's up here. It's been working, it's been keeping them alive and keeping them going, but they really could use a much better light. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hang this light up here. I'm going to use the little yo-yo thing it came with so I can adjust the height. And what I'm hoping I can do is get also maybe a couple microgreens trays off to the side and just see, does it work well enough on microgreens from a decent distance away? Because this would not be, in my opinion, a ideal light for growing microgreens, mostly because of people grow them typically on racks like I do, and you wouldn't want to use this in that scenario. But if you were somebody growing on like a big bench, like a 4x8 sheet of plywood bench, if this light was able to be held up kind of high and do that whole area, well, then it would be a feasible light. I still wouldn't recommend it for microgreens just because microgreens really like to be vertical. It's the best way to grow them in my opinion, but I still want to give the light a try. I've got some other vegetable plants I'm going to be putting underneath here. I've got some peppers and some watermelon and cantaloupe. You guys might have saw that in a previous video. It's still not nice enough outside to start planting outside, so let's get this stuff underneath the light. So I'm just going to set this up and see what it does. So I got the light all hung up. It's on its highest settings, as high as it can go. So I dropped my bench down a little bit. Nice thing about an adjustable bench. I haven't even plugged this in yet to see what it's going to be like. So for now, I'm just going to plug it straight in and see what this light's like. And then we'll put the timer on. Let there be light. So it looks pretty good. It's kind of bright. It's got some a few red LEDs in there. Some that are kind of on the blue side, but they're not like red and blue. I'll bring the camera around and show that after I'm done setting everything up. So let's get this timer set up. This light's bright. I think our tomatoes are going to like it. The timer goes in 24-hour increments. What you do is you spin it to the time that it's at right now. And you've got white and black, and you can decide which one is PM and AM. And it's about 7:30 at night right now. So we'll go black for that. Actually, that would be correct. So you want to do military time. So military time, it'd be 1930 if it's 7:30. And we're going to want it to be on for 16 hours a day. And so let's have it come on at 5. So all you do is you push these little tabs down. Anytime those are down, the light will be on. Anytime they're up, the light will be off. I really like these mechanical timers for using for hydroponic watering pumps, because you can have them come on and off several times a day. Really easy to set. You could do that with digital ones as well, but it's just not the same. 16 hours on, 8 hours off. There we have it. So I've unplugged my other light, so now all this light is just from this one. You can see, I can feel it does put off heat. It's not super cool. But 150 watt LED light is quite a bit of wattage. It's not too hot, but you wouldn't want plants touching the lights or getting right close. Let's open up our little hygrometer and just see if there's batteries already in it, or if I have to add batteries. Guessing I have to add them. Looks like it takes one AA. Let me go get a battery for that, because I'm just curious. Got myself a battery here. Looks like it's got some sort of a stand, but it's kind of hard to get it out. I was doing it wrong. Stand goes like that. All right. Let's peel off this plastic. All right, looks pretty accurate. We are at 65.1 degrees Fahrenheit and 52% humidity. And I've got my other hygrometer hanging up here, and it's saying the exact same thing. So this works. Cool. Now let's open up our other toy. This one, surprisingly, doesn't use batteries. I would have thought for sure it did. Or it's got one built in. I don't really know. It's got a pH, off, and moisture. Here are some of our test subjects right here, these tomatoes. And I have just watered these, so they're pretty wet. So let's check the moisture first. We're reading 3.5 on the moisture scale, which is right at moist. It's right where moist starts. Let's go ahead and switch it to pH. pH is just above 7, which is right around where you want to be. So that's cool. That's fun. Got a bunch of peppers here, some jalapenos, some bells, some tomatoes that are not doing very good. If you saw my transplant video, you'll understand. These tomatoes are actually the same exact age as these tomatoes. So transplanting them was the way to go. And then recently I just put them in this tray. See how they do there. Then I've got some watermelon, some cantaloupe over here. We'll see how they do. The light would be better, I think, if these ends were beveled. These sides are beveled out. These are straight down. So the light kind of cuts off kind of sharp that way. And it kind of is allowed to open up more in that direction. So I really should have it turned for where I am. Let's see if I can do that. I think the light shines better like that. But for today, it doesn't really want to cooperate, so it's going to stay like that. We'll see how it does. Here's just a little bit better view of what I've got going on here. You see my watermelon, my cantaloupe in the back, all these tomatoes, my peppers, and some other tomatoes that are not doing that great. See if I can get the light. Oh yeah, you can definitely see those red lights. There's not a lot of those. And you can kind of pick out the different shades of the LEDs they have in there. Some are kind of blue, some are a little bit more yellow. We'll see how this does. I've had these plants under this light for about 10 days, which is long enough to give it a pretty good evaluation. My tomatoes have gotten huge. They really need to get outside, but there's still a risk of frost out there, so I can't put them out there just yet. You can see my peppers are really doing fantastic. I've got these couple tomatoes back here that I basically kind of left for dead, but they came back. They'll probably produce this year. I do have some blotching on my tomatoes, but that's not the light's fault. That's my fault for having them in these little pots and not giving them proper fertilizer. But they're coming back into it. I've started treating them a little bit with some fertilizer. Some watermelon. You can see this watermelon looks like it's actually trying to blossom. This one as well. Same thing with the cantaloupe. It's taken right off. So I'm pretty happy with the light. A couple things, like I said, it would probably be better if these sides beveled out to allow the light to really kind of shine down that way. But if you look at where my peppers are, you go straight up to where the light is, it's a long distance away, and this light's having no problem being perfect for those peppers. I mean, they're clearly not stretching for light or anything. They look perfect. And the tomatoes, they're not getting any leggier than tomatoes normally do. They look good. So it does seem to have a pretty good span. You can see it does look like this watermelon may be kind of trying to go towards the light, but it could just be the way it's growing. But that's a long ways away from the light. It's not even close to being directly under it. So I think the light's a good value. Considering the things it comes with and not being all that expensive to begin with, I'm quite happy with it. Probably be nice if it had an on-off switch for some people, but for the most part, you're probably going to want to run it on a timer, which it comes with anyways. So this has been the review of the Mars Hydro 1000 watt grow light. It's really 150 watt, but I guess it outputs close to 1000 watts. I don't really go by that too much. I worry about how my plants grow, and the plants are growing great. Thanks for watching.